So, she names are another hormone.
Welcome to Strange Familiars. If you have a story of an encounter with something strange, a cryptid like Bigfoot, a UFO, an alien, a ghost story, and you'd like to share that story on the podcast, you can email us, strangefamiliarspodcast@gmail.com. Another way you can get us your story is to leave us a voicemail at 717-347-8554. If you have a short encounter, that's the perfect way to get us your story. If your message gets cut off, you can always call back and leave us another message. Again, that voicemail number is 717-347-8554. If you want, you can also just record your encounter yourself in an audio file and get us that, and I can edit it up for the show. Before we get to Pandemonium Part 2, I want to thank all the listeners that came out to see us at Comic-Con in Harrisburg. It's always great meeting listeners, and it's always a wonderful surprise when just people walk up and say, "Hey, I listened to your show." It's really awesome. So thanks for all your support on all fronts, everybody. If you want to see us again, we will be out at Albatwitch Day on October 12th in Columbia, Pennsylvania. It's going to be a great day full of paranormal speakers and fun things for the kids to do, trolley rides, bands. In the evening, we're doing ghost tours and much more. That's Albatwitch Day, Columbia, Pennsylvania, Saturday, October 12th. So the response to Pandemonium Part 1 has been great. I'm glad everybody liked it. These on-site shows are my favorite shows to do. Before we get to Part 2, I just want to mention once again, there's a lot of on-site audio here, and by nature, on-site audio is inconsistent. I've done my best to even out the levels and all the audio, but by nature, it will be inconsistent. Just like last episode, Chad and I kind of pop in between the clips and talk about them a bit, so you should be able to follow what's going on. So with all that said, here is Pandemonium Part 2. Welcome back, Chad.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Hello, everyone.
So we're on to Pandemonium Part 2.
Pandemonium Part 2, where things get even more woo.
People, I hope we can deliver, because people were really excited, and I don't know what's the word, about the cliffhanger. They were very...
Yeah, they were really... A lot of anticipation, I believe.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be a problem at all.
I hope so. I hope we can deliver here. Once again, we're recording earlier than I usually do, and I think the high school is having some sort of sports game tonight, so you might hear some background noise.
I actually thought I was hearing, like, church music, like pipe organs or something going on.
Yeah, I think they're playing... I don't know what's going on over there.
So if you hear anything in the background, just kind of,
ignore it.
Yes.
So, Pandemonium. If you haven't listened to episode 1 of Pandemonium... Part 1 of Pandemonium.
Yeah.
You should probably go back and listen to that.
Yeah, really.
But we'll do a quick recap.
Yep.
So we went to this abandoned ghost town called Pandemonium in the Tuscarora State Forest in Pennsylvania. Chad kind of planned the trip for us. We thought, even up to the point we were at in the end of the last episode, we thought this was going to be kind of a historical episode.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about the history of the town and some of the neat stories.
Some history and, maybe some EVPs.
Yeah, like
dowsing rods.
We thought we might get some ghost stuff maybe because there's some ghost stories there. And had an interesting time. We left some offerings out in the form of things that Tobe Johnson from Strange Brow had sent me. He sent me an owl feather and a cedar ball. We left the owl feather down from our camp about 150 yards, 200 yards.
Yeah, 200 yards max, if even that.
From our camp down the hill. We left the cedar ball at the cemetery. Also, down from the camp, you left a piece of slag from Cador's furnace.
Yes.
And Mark had left an apple and some other items.
Some fennel and I believe a little bit of cinnamon or
and yeah. So we had gone up to the cemetery. We had a very, very strange experience of a disappearing cairn, which people have asked if you were seeing the cairn that we built in the future, which is a really interesting concept.
And did we even discuss that like at that day too? And we just didn't record it.
I'm not sure. I know it came up at some point.
It came up at some point, and we just kind of were just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the idea of the quantum computer that is our brain. Like, were you able to pick up information from the future? You know, did you see the cairn we eventually built? It's a neat idea. I mean, who knows? It was weird though.
Yeah, it was weird.
And that established that area. Is that west of the cemetery? There?
That is actually somewhat kind of northish.
Okay.
Because the mountain runs kind of in a northwest, southwest.
Okay.
So kind of like
northwest.
Yeah, northwest of the cemetery.
We that kind of established for us that's kind of a weird little area in there.
Yes.
And when we went back later that night to go to the cemetery, we decided not to go that way. It just like the cemetery was very peaceful. It was very nice. It was a very nice night hike we had. For whatever reason, we just decided, let's not go over there. It just didn't feel right to do. And then those trucks came by, and
that's when everything changed.
Yeah, that's when the whole feeling up there changed, and that kind of brought us to where we are now in the story.
Yeah.
We kind of walked back to camp. Before we get into the rest of the story, we did get a comment on Facebook from someone who lives near Pandemonium.
I believe they even said they have visited the area numerous times also.
Yeah, she said she's been there multiple times. This is from Jessica, and she gave us permission to read this. She said, a few points of validation on this episode. I loved it. I can't wait for part 2. Sadly, you get a lot of young drunks there from time to time. I guess she's referring to the people we were talking about.
Correct.
Driving through. I've been there, and I've heard what sounds like big work trucks, and knowing it is coming up the road. So that's very interesting to me.
Yes.
Because as I'm doing these audio, I keep hearing what I think is trucks or vehicles on the tape.
And we're not referring to the trucks, the actual physical trucks that came by. This is kind of like a noise, like a constant.
Yeah, these are other things, to the point where some patrons are helping me go through the audio from the cemetery. So we left a recorder at the cemetery, 9 hours of recordings around that. And some of the patrons are helping me go through that. And one of them said, is this near a major road? Because I keep hearing traffic noises. No, it's not. We're 6 miles from anything.
Yeah, we're 6 miles in from the one main road, the hard road. I mean, we're 6 miles on a gravel road back in the state forest, and there is even the road, the hard road that runs, that you turn off of, and that's not really traveled heavily neither.
Right.
Especially at the time of night that we're there.
Yeah.
That we were there.
Now, sound does travel in interesting ways around valleys and stuff, and maybe somehow some of the sounds are getting funneled in that may or may not be traffic noise from other places, or might just sound like traffic noise. I'm not saying 100% it's paranormal. I'm just saying it's very interesting that, here's a local saying you hear trucks coming up and they never arrive.
Yeah, and I do believe that you had said as we were walking up to the cemetery. Actually, I think both of us were like, well, we think there's a car coming. Mm-hmm. This is as we were walking up to the cemetery.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this last time.
And we both stepped off to the side.
We got off the road and into the weeds because it's night. At this point, your lamp had burned out.
Yeah.
So we're just walking at night.
I misjudged how much oil. I didn't really put more oil in it.
For safety's sake, we got well off the road and into the weeds.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting for this car or truck or whatever it is to come by, and it never came. Yes, yeah. And I didn't even think anything of it.
No.
Until Jessica's comment.
And we both neither remember, other than that, we don't remember hearing any like a constant rumble. But it might have been something we might have missed with everything else that was going on. I mean, there was so much more going on. It would have easily been missed.
Right.
But
so continuing with Jessica's comment, she said, not saying anyone has to, I never enter the actual part of the cemetery without asking permission, which I thought was also interesting because when we went there at night, remember we had this feeling like, we really had a feeling that it was peaceful, but it was for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's very interesting that she mentions that.
I can't remember if I did ask permission or not, but go ahead.
It seems if people do not ask permission, she means, and enter, there's a lot of nervous energy throughout. We've heard chanting out there too, and the area where you guys said you were staying away from at night, that's a good idea. We found skulls there, and my one friend has had her shirt pulled in broad daylight. It's not a friendly part at all. Also, things do get thrown at people there. So she knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, and this was the area of the disappearing Karen.
Mm-hmm.
The area that, we kind of feel uneasy going into.
Yeah. So it's really, really interesting to get a local person who's been there multiple times just sort of completely confirming what we said.
It was kind of like a little validation. It's kind of nice to have somebody else's encounter versus just ours.
Exactly. Which, speaking of, later in this episode, we'll have yet someone else's encounter from Pandemonium.
Yes. So it's not just us.
So we had our experience at the cemetery. We walked back to camp, and pretty soon after, we went to sleep.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a late night guy.
Yeah, you are. I'm not, but you definitely are.
Yeah, I thought for sure I'm going to be up till 4 in the morning because, it's just my normal schedule. I'm usually up till 3, 4 anyway. But I thought, it's not that I was uncomfortable, but you're not as comfortable camping as you are in your own bed,
Oh,
and
unless you're me. But anyways.
Yeah, so I just thought, because of my normal schedule and because of all the excitement and stuff, that I'm going to be up. I'll be up for a while. So we sat up and talked for a while. But then we mutually agreed. I think it was before. We didn't even talk for an hour, I don't think.
No.
We barely.
I think maybe a half hour at the most, if even that. And
we just mutually agreed. I was like, we're zapped,
Yeah. I mean, I think we even, mentioned, as we were walking back, when we stopped at the one intersection before we got ushered along a little more,
right?
We were both like, man, we're tired. And it wasn't like we had run out of there or it was like a real long distance.
No, it wasn't long.
And
it wasn't far.
No, and we weren't carrying any weight. We felt tired.
Yeah, it was interesting. So, we went to sleep pretty quickly after going back. And I didn't have any trouble getting to sleep.
Neither did I.
There was nothing that was bothering me. Once I got in the tent and under my sleeping bag, I was out.
Yeah.
We should probably describe the camp a little bit.
Yes.
So I'm in a tent.
Yeah.
I'm in an actual, 4 walls.
An actual 4-wall tent.
You're under a tarp.
I am under a tarp. Yes.
Which is tied to a tree.
Tied to a tree. I do what's called a plow point. I might actually have a demonstration of that for those who are going to Alba Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I tie one end of the tarp off and then I stake out the rest of the ends, and then I use another line either to another post I drive into the ground or another tree to kind of pull it out. And then basically I'm open on the one side, completely open.
Right.
So
yeah, so one side of yours is just facing out.
It's just open.
Basically kind of facing towards the camp itself.
Yeah, I was facing you.
Yeah.
I was facing downhill towards the offering area.
Mm-hmm.
I could see you.
Mm-hmm.
I could see my backpack and your backpack. And
we had them hanging on.
We had them hanging on the trees from paracord. If you really want to see the layout, go to the video.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to promote it, but it just is really good companion to this.
I'll link that in the notes where Chad kind of shows you around the campsite if you want to get a better idea.
Yeah, I think it really helps.
That's the situation. Chad's under a tarp. I'm in a tent, and we conk out. We go to sleep. And at 3:30 a.m., we're woken up.
You woke before me.
Yeah.
Because you had said I was snoring.
You were sort of gently snoring. You can actually hear it at some point on the recordings. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about the dreams because it was only later that we compared notes on these dreams. And I don't know what they mean, but I feel like they mean something, maybe. So I was having a dream that these little creatures, I guess they would call them little people in folklore, these little hairy creatures were climbing all over my tent. They were climbing, so I was in the campsite, that we were in. I wasn't anywhere else in this dream. I was there, and these creatures were climbing all over. Now they were covered in white hair, but they had bird heads. So one had like an owl head, and one had like an eagle or some kind of raptor head, and I think one might have had like a sparrow head or something like that. Of the 3 of them that I saw, and it was very, very disturbing. It was just this really weird.
Yeah,
disturbing.
you were shaken up by it when we were talking about it. That was exactly what you said, and you could see it.
It was a disturbing dream to begin with, and then to be woken up from that in the way that I was woken up made it even worse. But later on, you said, "Oh, I was having this dream. I was having a bad dream or something when we woke up," and I was like, it didn't even occur to me until we're home. Yes. I think at the point,
yeah,
and we're talking on the phone and we're trying to kind of recap everything. And you mentioned the dream again. I was like, well, I had a dream too. So then you tell me this dream, and so go ahead and talk about yours.
Yeah. So basically, my dream is we were being driven out of camp by short little furry creatures. Mine were dark hair with red eyes. We were like having to tear camp down. Like I remember actually, not vaguely, but I really remember like having to tear my tarp down, stuffing in my backpack. I was yelling at you, "Come on, we got to get out of here!"
Wow.
And these things were like, I wouldn't say like attacking us, but they were driving us. Like we had to go, and if we didn't leave, they were coming at us.
Right.
I remember like grabbing, like just tearing stuff down and throwing it in the Forerunners. And I'm like, come on, Tim, and you were like trying to get out of the tent. I mean, it was fun. It sounds funny now,
No,
but we were tripping. I mean, it was just like we were tearing camp down in a hurry to get out.
And yours took place in the campsite we were in as well.
In the campsite.
See, that's so. We were both kind of dreaming in place,
yeah.
And then we both had these little hairy things, whatever that means. It was really bizarre. So we're going to get to this on-site audio here real quick, and we'll get to the rest of the story. But I have to mention, since we're speaking of bad dreams, as I'm editing the audio for this episode, I'm staying up late. I'm trying to get it done. Because
you had a lot to do.
You're about ready to go on a big camp out. I know we kind of have one shot to record this before you go. I want to make sure to get it done before you go. And I'm staying up late, and I go to sleep, and I wake up from this dream. And again, I dreamt in place. So now I'm in my bedroom in my house. And there was this hag-like woman, like this really scary looking ghost, I guess, of this like hag-like woman just screaming at me in the hallway upstairs. I wake up from that, and I actually, have to use the bathroom, which means I have to walk down that hallway. It was very bizarre, and I'm completely blaming that on Pandemonium because I was up editing Pandemonium audio.
You know what? I don't blame you, because when I listen to this audio, it really brings it back.
Okay, so back to the night
yes.
we were camping. Before I play these sounds, you have to remember, sounds on recordings are nowhere near as impressive as live sounds. Think of a recording of a live concert versus being at a live concert, like the difference.
Yes.
There's a huge difference. When you're at a live concert, the sound's much more alive and much more immediate and much more powerful. And it's the same with these sounds. So they just don't translate too well on tape, or certainly not as well as they were there.
Yes.
So they were much more powerful in person. So what woke me up from that dream was wood knocks. And
they weren't just wood knocks. They were
heavy knocks.
They were loud.
These came from two directions. So one came kind of down the hill from that offering spot we talked about, and the other, if I had to put a place on it, was coming from the woods behind you. So on that side where that gully was.
Okay, yeah. That would be kind of behind me to if I was facing your tent to the right.
Yeah. So that's, if I have to guess, the two directions where they're coming from. So I had enough wits about me when I was woken up to hit record on the recorder. We didn't leave a recorder going all night. Again, when I was trying to save file space, I thought we were going to record all the next day, so I just thought, well...
And we weren't anticipating this at all.
No. I thought the cemetery's the hot spot. I'll leave the recorder up there, right?
Yeah.
So we left the other recorder.
We were hoping the cemetery would have been where all this what happened here was completely unexpected.
So we left the recorder going up at the cemetery. We should have had a recorder going in campsite. We didn't know.
Well, from now on, we're going to have two recorders going.
Yeah, exactly. But I did wake up and I hit record, and this is the wood knocks.
You hear that?
Yeah, dude. I'm sitting here inside my sleeping bag shivering.
You're cold.
No, I'm freaked out.
I'm getting up. At this point, I'm awake now.
Yeah. It's gonna be a long night.
So,
Yeah.
that clip is full of sounds other than the knocks, but those knocks,
Yes.
it sounded to me like, and again, this is just what it sounded like. I don't know that this is what it was, but it sounded like a big, heavy branch that was maybe wet or covered in bark or something. That is those thumps. You can hear those heavy thumps. That's most of what you hear. And it sounds like it's answered by something, that's maybe a harder branch that's dry. It sounds more like a baseball bat.
It's very, very
Crisp.
very
kind of.
crisp and hollow sound.
Yeah.
Carrying.
And you can tell they come from a different direction. If you're listening in with headphones, you can hear I think it's the second to the last knock in the clip, and we'll play it again here in a second. You can hear the thud and then the answer, and if you're listening in headphones, it comes from a different direction. It's almost all in one channel. So it was definitely a different direction. So there's knocks going on in two different directions.
Now let me ask you this, because you initially heard this before I did. Which sound was coming down at the offering area, and which one was coming over near the color?
The heavy thuds. The heavy thuds were coming from down over the hill.
Okay.
Absolutely. And in fact, when I hit record, I don't know that I even picked up the answer until the last one, that very last one.
Yeah.
And that's what woke you up.
Yeah, Tim woke up before me, and that one was what,
Yeah.
the last one is what really,
If you hear something that sounds like growling, that's actually Chad snoring.
yes.
Picked up on that. So that's not a gorilla growl there. That's Chad snoring, but that last one was so heavy and so loud.
That's the one that jolted me awake.
Yeah. That's when you say, did you hear that? Let me play that again. The whole clip. All right, now I'm going to replay just the part that's the knock and the answer, and I'm going to play that 3 times so if people know exactly what part I'm talking about with the real clear knock and answer.
Yes.
I think it's answered a couple of times, but this is the very, very clear. So that's something with hands, right?
Absolutely.
That's all I can say. I can't make a claim as to what any of that was. It wasn't a woodpecker. Those weren't branches falling.
No, it wasn't a woodpecker because we're talking 3:30 in the morning.
Right.
It was pitch black.
Right.
If it was a branch falling, and I had this discussion with somebody local, and they're like, "Well, what if it was a branch falling?" I said, "Well, okay, maybe that would be the sound for one,
Right.
but how would you
Repeat sound.
that, and then the sound almost repeats itself numerous times, unless branches can pick themselves up off the ground and smack the side of trees, that's not happening. And also when a branch falls, it has more of a crashing sound.
Yeah.
You'll have some of the whistling from the branches, through the air. That I've heard plenty of tree branches fall in the middle of the night, and that was not it. There's no way.
No, this was something with hands. Now, if you want to believe people snuck in there, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. My question would be why. Yeah, and we'll get more into that in a bit too.
And my next question is, where would they have come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there was nobody else in this valley, to our knowledge,
right,
except us.
Exactly. So at the end of that clip, there's a little kind of woo sound, and I pick up, and this is interesting because we picked this up again, but this is just a short little, and that's right at the end of the clip, and I'll go ahead and play that 3 times. This sound does come up again. Yeah, let's go back to the audio on site here.
Up there. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That could be a coyote, though.
Could be.
Wow, that's freaky.
Coyotes do not knock on wood.
It's worth reiterating. This is all this audio that we're going through that I keep pausing. This is like a minute of audio or something.
Oh yeah, I mean this all happened. We had the knocks, the thumps. We had that what sounded like a woo or a howl, which by the way is not a coyote. Because I didn't think it was a coyote. At that point, I was just kind of stretching for some kind. At first, I was half asleep because I just woke up. I was just kind of stretching for some kind of, what is this?
So the howl that was in that clip, I isolated that. I'll play that 3 times.
Yes. Oh my God, that's that klaxon.
All right, so that howl there.
That howl there, yes.
I know people love to say coyote. People loved it. Like every comment on any unusual sound I've ever recorded, people, oh, that's a coyote. That's a coyote. I played that for, well, you've heard it. I've played it for other people who are familiar with animal sounds. I don't think that's a coyote.
It's not. I'm familiar with coyote sounds also. Like you said, I even just to double check, I listened to numerous different kinds of coyote calls from different parts of the country, just trying to, just in case, because, the northeastern coyote is different than the one out west.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded nothing like that. I mean, the length of the call, the tone of the call, and just the pitch, the way it rises and falls.
Like we were saying, like a klaxon horn, like a siren or something.
It was not a coyote. And, I even checked foxes, which have a very different sound to them.
Well, that, again, this is very powerful.
Oh, yeah, this was insanely powerful. I mean, this was from a distance. This wasn't, like, right on us.
Right. We're a good long way away from this, and whatever was doing this was powerful. It had some lung capacity. let's go back. We're still in that same
little
time period.
Yeah, this is like you
minutes
said,
after waking up. Minutes after waking up.
Not even 5 minutes.
No.
Did you hear that? Was that a siren?
No, that was not a siren.
Again, just a short clip, but that was that same howl going off again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the same one. Whatever made the other howl, presumably, was howled again.
Yes, and then we did hear it from different spots. I think we also said at one point that one of them came from near the cemetery.
Yeah.
And then one came from a different section.
This howl was even longer than the first one. And I'll just play the isolated howl 3 times so people can listen. Now that's pretty long.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It's pretty long, and a coyote would usually start with like a yip or like a bark, and even if you miss that it doesn't have that lung capacity to do it for that long.
Yeah.
And with the volume we were hearing it at.
And I thought one of the most interesting things you told me, because I said, "Hey, Chad, do you like? Here's these sounds. If you don't mind, try to go through and see if any match to any animals."
You're right.
You know? And you said the closest I could find was a wolf.
Correct.
There are no wolves. Aren't supposed to be any wolves.
Yeah, they aren't supposed to be.
Coy wolves do not howl like wolves. They're a little bit different.
No.
Closer to coyotes. So interesting. Are we hearing a spook wolf? Is this the ghost of a wolf?
And I think I even mentioned that the wolf tone was much lower than this. I mean, it was almost quite that length. It wasn't as long as that. I mean, this is still something that has a longer,
right,
lung capacity. And I said to you, yeah, the closest I could find was a wolf, but the wolf howl's too low.
Right.
But yeah, could it be a ghost wolf?
This is kooky, right?
It's just kooky.
But at some point, I don't know what else to do with this stuff. Where you start going, is it a ghost of a wolf? It's just, and I realize how kooky that sounds. But what's going on? What's going on here? I don't know. I've heard supposed Bigfoot howls that do sound like this. I'm not going to say that's what it is. I'm not going to go there because who knows? Who knows what it was? And I'm sure people will have all kinds of theories about what perfectly natural animal it was. But
and
there is some natural animals now. And with the next clip, we'll hear some natural animals.
Yeah.
We're not thinking at this point everything is woo, but
we didn't know what was going on really.
Right,
I mean, we were just kind of like at that moment we were just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And and I think I did mention is that it sounded like a siren.
Yeah.
Now when I said that, I didn't mean like it was a siren.
Right.
I was saying it has that kind of tonal carry, but. Here's the thing: it wasn't a siren because a siren is constant.
Right,
and this
different lengths.
Yeah, 2 different lengths. Wasn't constant. It wasn't, and once again, wasn't the same pitch.
Right.
As a siren.
Right. We have we caught it 3 times. Each one's a different length. So it's the short at the end of the Wood Knox clip. We hear it go off real short, and then it's longer the second time, and then the longest is the third time. So it's a different length each time. So. I don't know what it was. We didn't know what it was at the time. It definitely added to the atmosphere.
Yes.
And again, this is all within a minute or two of waking up from the Wood Knocks. All of this happens. Bam, 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 right in a row. After this howls and everything, we kind of get up and we start kind of reconstructing things as best we could.
Yes.
Like what's going on. We're getting our bearings.
Yeah, we're trying. Because I was still waking up at this point.
Yeah.
I was half asleep.
And these siren calls are going off, and again, I don't mean they were sirens. I mean they were calls that
sounded like sirens,
similar to sirens. And we're just kind of taking stock, and we're trying to figure out like what's going on.
Yeah, I was asking you, what's going on, and we're just discussing.
We both heard these wood knocks, and 1,000% sure that something, was knocking out there. So we're not necessarily dazed, but we're just trying to take stock of the situation. We're waking up and we're just trying, all right, what's going on and what do we need to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And all this happens, it's firing off around us as we're sort of waking up there. But we get up and you said, and I'm not sure, it might come later, you might say it in one of these clips later, but you said something hit my tarp.
Yeah, you were still in the tent. Mm-hmm. I was still in the tarp, and I was just kind of starting to look around, and something bounced off the back of the tarp. I mean, I don't know what it was,
right?
But it hit the back of the tarp, and that's what I said. Look, this is what we're gonna do. I said we're gonna get up, we're gonna make some tea, we're gonna turn the lamps on that were battery operated,
right,
and just kind of sit at the picnic table and wait till daylight. Because at this point it was what, 4 o'clock?
Yeah, by this time it's 4.
Yeah,
I don't think we were getting back to sleep.
No, there was no way we were going back to sleep.
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah, I was. I'm all in for this stuff, but I'll also admit when it shakes me, and I was shaken.
Oh yeah, I know you were.
To be woken up by wood knocks is an impressive thing, because not many things it could be. It's either people or it's something else with hands.
Yeah, and at that point I was just like, we just gotta,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the training kicked in, and I'm like, okay, let's establish a safe zone, which is kind of what we did.
Yeah. That's actually on the recordings that when you do that, which was a great idea. It ended up being the perfect thing to do. But then you kind of put together that you saw something. So you said, you told me, I think I saw something earlier, and we tried to put it together what that was, which I think became more apparent in the morning.
Yeah, more apparent in the morning. So what had happened was we went to bed about, I don't know, 12:30.
It was probably 12:30.
Yeah, because we had come back from the cemetery. I had fallen asleep, and I woke up. I don't know what time it was because I didn't look at my cell phone or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I woke up in the middle of the night. The moon was still up. And that's one thing I also want to mention. When we got woken up by all these noises and stuff.
At 3:30.
At 3:30, there was no moon anymore. The moon had settled.
It was dark.
It was dark. So I'd woken up and the moon was still up. And I woke up because I was laying lengthwise in the tarp. And it was like something had shook the tarp above my head. Like this piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And I had woken up, and I was like, huh? What? I looked above me, and there was a spot on the tarp that I couldn't drive the stake in as tight.
Because of the rocky Pennsylvania soil.
And so I had a space probably, I don't know, not even an inch, maybe a half inch, where I could see the moonlight coming in. Where my tarp was positioned, like I said, I could see your tent, see your pack. My pack was kind of out of my eyesight, and the picnic table was out of my eyesight. And I thought what I saw was like a light scroll across the top of my tarp. Mm-hmm. But later on, talking to you, realizing how bright the moon was, I don't think it was a light.
Yeah.
What I think it was a shadow was passing between that side of the tarp and where the picnic table was, which was near where the fire pit was. It's kind of like if you have the crack under a door and you have light coming underneath in the door and somebody walks across it and you see that shadow. Mm-hmm. And it just made the moonlight look like, because I actually remember that the supposed flashlight I saw wasn't much brighter than the moonlight.
Right.
So what I think it was something moving between there, and the shadow was on the tarp. Mm-hmm. That's what I saw moving. So then I grabbed my headlamp and I flashed it out. First I put it on your tent. Then I scrolled it out. And I didn't get up. I just kind of leaned out of the opening. Scrolled it around to where the picnic table was and the fire pit. Saw all the gear was there. Because some of my gear is pretty expensive.
Right.
And I didn't want anything messed with. Because right away I'm thinking somebody's in camp, somebody stopped by, and once again we were keyed in because of what the Rangers had told us.
Yeah, if you remember last episode, we said there was a grader parked up where we parked the truck, and the Rangers had said, hey, somebody tried to take the battery, but they only cut the cables, they didn't get the battery, so watch out, guys.
Yeah, watch out. So right away, that's what I'm doing, and I saw nobody. And then I'm like, you know what, it was just nothing. go back to sleep. And I laid back down, and I looked past your tent, down towards the bottom of the hill, and there was moon. The moon was really bright, and I thought I saw movement. In my mind at the time, I'm like, oh, it's just a tree moving. Mm-hmm. But there's not a lot of underbrush.
Right.
I was just kind of just...
Yeah, that wake up kind of
Wake
stage,
up, and I'm like, it's just... And then, I realized later, there was no wind.
Right.
And that's another thing to remember. There was no wind blowing it.
No wind at all this
No
night.
wind at all.
No.
So none of these clacks or any thumps are from wind.
Right.
So...
And again, making it less likely for a branch to swing down and repeatedly hit.
Yes.
First of all, you'd need a pretty heavy wind to
Oh,
make
absolutely.
that
I
kind of
mean,
thump.
we would definitely hear, if you listen to the clips, there's no sound of leaves rattling or anything of that nature.
Right. So then we get up, and you decide to make tea, which was good. I'm going to play a clip of making tea, and we'll hear a bunch of
So
other noises.
the metallic noises you hear are me getting out my my stove and my canteen and all that. So any metallic noises you hear are that.
And I'd say we're about 10 minutes after we've woken up, because we had to get our shoes on.
We had to
and stuff. So we've been woken up.
We're
all
looking
that
around.
other stuff occurred. We talked a little bit, and now it's maybe 10-15 minutes later. We're getting tea, and we hear this other set of noises while we're doing that.
I don't know on that one.
It's a bird.
Is it a bird?
That's an owl, I think. Almost sounds like a horse. But do you hear that bang?
Yes.
That's up near Pandemonium.
Hear that?
What the?
Another bang.
Oh, no, another bang?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so that's that owl or something, right?
Yeah, it's as close as I could get to what it is. It's definitely not a coyote.
Yeah, that one's that.
We were definitely hearing bangs too during that, which I couldn't pull out. I tried to find them. I couldn't pull them out of the audio. But what that was in between that you were hearing us, as you identified it.
A screech owl. It was an eastern screech owl. That
Right.
kind of like what I remarked was like a horse neighing. Mm-hmm. That was an eastern screech owl.
Right.
Which is different than the howls we were hearing.
It is. It's absolutely different. And even if this is a perfectly natural owl, and I'm not saying it's not, but I think it is very, very interesting for any owl to show up at this time after these other events. So I isolated just the owl, and there is a grunt at the end of the first clip. So there's I think 4 different clips of the owl here, or maybe it's 2 owls. But you can hear this very audible grunt at the end of the first clip. So listen for that. There's a secondary whistle at the beginning of the 4th clip that I don't think is the owl.
I think I listened to that and I said, "There's no way that was the owl."
Something else. And listen for the changing character of the sounds. So the sounds, the last owl sounds different than the others. Different owl? Could be. Absolutely could be. Maybe it's closer. It sounds lower. Not saying it's anything other than what it is, but it does have a different character than the other sounds. So I guess there's 5. I think there's 5 total owl clips. So, with all that in mind, like I said, I'll play it one more time, play that whole section, all those together. There's 5 of them. You want to listen for the grunt at the end of the first clip. There's a secondary whistle at the beginning of the 4th clip. And the 5th one, just listen to how much the character of that changes. And I'll play that one more time. Now we're at the campsite.
Yes.
We got about 2 hours, right, before daylight.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Weird stuff goes on the whole time. And the audio's not... It's hard to pick some of this stuff up. And some of it just won't pick up on the audio. So it's easier just to discuss what we were hearing and what was going on. One of the things we were hearing was something that seemed to be walking around us. Seemed to be
yes,
just
circling us.
At one point, you heard something in the gravel up by your truck.
Yes, and immediately I was not happy with the situation, and because we could hear a noise coming from near the ravine area, which was on the other side of my tarp.
Are you talking about that gully?
The gully, yes,
yeah.
The gully. Sorry, not a ravine. It was a small gully where a creek was flowing through. We could hear it, and then the next thing you know, you hear crunching, like somebody or something walking on the gravel near the vehicle. And I was like, I'm not having this. And I grabbed my axe and my light, and up I went, and there was nothing there.
Yeah. So the campsite's a clearing, kind of, as all campsites are, I suppose.
Yes.
But it's got a nice clearing, and there's a picnic table there and so forth. And I kept going to the edge of the clearing, whenever I had to pee or, whatever. And I was shining my light out in the woods. And I kept seeing what appeared to be a face on this tree. A big white face on this tree. Now, every time I went over there, I'd shine my light on it and just look at it. And I never called you over to look at it.
No, you didn't. Not till later on.
Because during the day, I think we ended up looking at it.
Yes.
But the reason why is I thought it was pareidolia. I thought the whole time I'm thinking, boy, that looks spooky. That white face. But it was there every time, and there was no body underneath. If there was a body underneath of it, I certainly would have called you. If I thought something was standing there.
Because we were like alert at this point.
I had thought that night that the bark was ripped off of a tree, off of the tree in question. It was a very distinct tree. I could find it now if we went to that campsite.
Absolutely.
It's a big tree that's out, directly in front of this clearing. And I thought, okay, so what's happening must be that the bark must be cleared off just in an oval shape, and my light must be reflecting off the wood underneath the bark, and it's just, complete pareidolia. Just looks like a face. You know what I mean? When we got up in the morning, I looked again, and there's bark on that tree. So I don't know what that was. I have no clue what that was. I looked again and again and again. I can't wait till we couldn't get to that tree just because all the brush and everything.
Yeah, that was one of the few areas that when he says brush, there wasn't really any like brush, but it was like tall grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple areas where the grass was probably, I don't know, 3 feet tall.
Yeah, and we will get to that area. It's just we're gonna get a good frost first. And then
yes.
But we were, you could clearly see the tree in the daylight, and there was nothing on it that looked face shaped, or none of the bark was missing there. It was I don't know. I don't know on that one. But again and again I go over to that same spot and I just shine my light there. I'm like, man, that is weird looking. But I thought, well, it's pareidolia. I'm not going to mention it. It's just,
we
just
had enough
like
going on at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
And and it wasn't like a white fungus. Sometimes you get that white,
right?
Like, like a white fungus of some sort, like mushrooms or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
There was nothing there.
No,
it
it's
was
just bark.
Just bark.
Yeah.
Just plain gray bark.
Yeah, so I don't know what that one was. At another point, we were kind of walking around the campsite a little bit and, shining our lights, and I caught what I thought was the red reflector from your Forerunner.
Yeah.
So how your light would reflect off the rear reflector.
Yeah, you even said that. You were like, is your truck over there?
And you're like, that's not where it's parked. It's parked up there. And I went, well, yeah, that's right. So something either red lit up or red reflective was out in those woods, and I shined my light 500 more times in that same area trying to get something to
And
light
I
up.
think that was in the gully area.
Yeah, it was
like,
towards that area.
Now, was that before I heard the crunch? I think it was.
It might have been.
Because we heard a snap. See, we were hearing crunch. We were hearing snaps.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
And what would happen is there would be a snap. I'd move towards it. There would be another snap. I'd move that. And it was always in the opposite direction. And that's when you mentioned, when you go towards that, and then you always hear a snap in the other direction, like it wants to pull you away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We heard a snap there, and you were shining on your light, and that's when you said you saw the red. And then not long after that is when we heard the gravel.
The gravel, yeah.
And that's when I went up to check on the Forerunner.
Yeah.
Which, nothing was wrong. Everything was okay.
So when you came back down and we having all these weird sounds around camp, and like I said, it sounds like something's just walking, maybe more than one thing, but something seemed to be circling us. You got almost frustrated at a point. You're like,
yeah,
you're like, no, I'm establishing boundaries here, which ended up being a fantastic thing to do. It was a really smart thing to do, and it ended up, I think, calming things down a little bit after you did that. What you did is you walked to each sort of side of the camp and kind of stood there for a minute and sort of like, this is our area. So I actually have that on tape.
Yeah, there's definitely something out there walking. Did you hear it?
Yeah, I hear it.
That could be a deer or something. Yeah. Keep your light on me.
Trying to get some light. I'm just trying to establish boundaries, if that makes any sense.
It does actually make a lot of sense.
Like, here we are. Oh, man. That's why when I first get to a place, I went down over the hill. I wanted to know what was down there.
Yeah.
I like to know what's around me. In case of the situation.
Yeah.
So that actually calmed things down a lot after you did that.
Yeah.
We still heard a few things, but it really kind of
It pushed out whatever was there out. And
now, was that instinct on your part, or was that training? I guess
I think it was kind of a little bit of both. And like when I told you to keep the light on me, that's so like I had my light ahead of me, and then you had the light on me so you can see me. So if like I were to fall or or
right.
disappear, God knows what.
Right.
And what I did is I just kind of go out. It was almost like at the 8 compass directions.
Mm-hmm.
Not
exactly.
Yeah, not any woo or anything, but just kind of just like saying, hey, this is our spot. This is our area,
right.
And just kind of flat. I would go out, move the light back and forth to see if I can see anything.
Mm-hmm.
And after we did that, it was kind of like we pushed out.
Yeah, it really, like, things really calmed down. It was because they were starting to get intense, and that really seemed to kind of settle things down or push it out, like you said, whatever the case. But I think it was a good thing to do. It was a very good thing to do. And we spent, we just hung out for the rest of the time. I don't think we heard too much more after that.
Things were starting to settle. I think it wasn't much long after that we started to hear the birds were starting to back up. The sun was starting to come up.
Yeah. And we decided, you know what, let's let's break camp. You know,
Yeah.
we kind of...
We were tired.
It was a long night.
It was
yeah.
a long night.
So, you know, as soon as we got enough daylight to do so, we started breaking down the camp, and we found something.
Look at this.
Okay. Yeah, right? I mean, obviously, that springs from that.
Yeah, there's loose springs over here. But when I walked, I already automatically kicked it. There's no way that, based on the trail.
So,
Look. That's smashed down.
yeah.
It's how the
And another spring right there.
Yeah.
It's, was it 7 in the morning?
Hold
8 in
on.
the morning?
Let me give me a second here. It's 7:07. It's
It's a little after 7 in the morning. We had kind of a harrowing second half of the night, which I think we talked about before.
and we've been up since.
We've
4.
been up. Yeah, we got up at 4. Well, I've been up since 3:30 since I heard those knocks, and so I had a piece of paracord tied to hang my pack up in a tree, and I just untied it because we're breaking down camp, and as I pulled it around, there was a metal spring, like a bed spring, attached to it,
Yeah.
like hooked on the paracord.
Just so everybody knows, this area that we were sleeping in was the old CCC camp, and there's like pieces of metal and
Yeah,
stuff.
there are metal bed springs around here, but this was up on a tree. I mean, I did not put it there. I'm stunned.
about what 5 feet?
Yeah.
5 feet off, and there's no way they would have had to roll that into the paracord
Exactly.
or loosen it up to attach it.
Yeah, so it was looped into the paracord. I'm stunned.
And then there's
and it's right by where we were sleeping.
Yeah.
I mean,
the back side of where we were sleeping, and there's a trail that goes from where we were hearing wood noises.
Yep.
This morning
directly to the tree where my pack was.
directly to the tree.
And
Other than that, nothing.
and it
else
crosses
is
right
disturbed.
over a bunch of springs too. So you know what I mean? Like something had ample opportunity to pick up a spring.
Well, it had ample opportunity to trip over this stuff.
True.
'Cause
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, it's an old, it's an old box spring that's just rusted away here, and I am stunned. That is,
I mean, you can see the trail. I mean, that's pretty damn clear through the ferns.
yeah.
There's no footprints because
But I pulled the paracord off the tree, and you happened to look over. I'm glad you looked over right as I did that, because you're like, what? How did that get? And I'm like, I didn't do that. That is,
and there's nothing's going to leave prints here because of the way the ground
yeah.
is.
It's just too
It's-
detritus and
It's basically leaves, pine needles, sticks. I mean, you're not going to leave an impression here.
but the ferns and the grasses are high enough where you can see something came
where it
through.
came through, yeah.
Yeah, it's beat down like.
And since we're discussing this, we might as well discuss what else we just found.
Yeah.
So Tim was taking some stuff back to the vehicle, and as we stated earlier, the vehicle's 200 yards from our campsite,
If
that.
Yeah.
And we were hearing noises on the opposite side of the camp.
It sounded, toward the end of the night, it sounded like we were being circled. really.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And you could clearly see where something had come out of the woods, went up near the road because I had heard crunching on the gravel, came back down, crossed over the access trail to the camp between us and the vehicle, and obviously circled back around again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the very edge of our lights.
I would be comfortable chalking all this up to nothing had I not heard those wood knocks and had that spring not be, you know what I mean? Like, and now I can't chalk any of that up to nothing because the spring's attached to the
That
thing.
spring was not there.
No way. I didn't tie. Why would I tie a spring?
And it sure as heck wasn't at the base of the tree.
No.
Because they're all the loose ones are over here.
In fact, I commented on the iron that was at the base. Remember?
Yeah.
We looked and saw what there.
Your pack was here,
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's that band. Absolutely. Yep. My pack was.
So the question is, and you're talking, 5-6 feet off the ground, and there's no way you looped it, you caught it because
No,
it was like twisted on. It was like something took it and like turned it on in
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
through the spring. It's a coil spring.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
This is.
This has been an interesting night and day.
Yeah,
And we're just, we're breaking up camp right now. We're actually trying to leave.
Yeah, I'm stunned. I am absolutely stunned by that.
Wow. Wow.
You can hear in my voice, I think, how shook I was.
Oh, you were, because I was taking something down.
Well, I wish there was a film camera on us, because you happened to look over right as I swung that paracord around. For some reason, you looked right at me.
Yeah.
And the look on your face was like, why do you have that spring? Like, you just had this confused look on your face. But you saw right as I brought it around, which I was happy. I'm glad you did, because I would have had been like, hey, Chad, look. You know what I mean? I didn't have to say anything. You saw. And I swing the cord around, and I'm confused. I'm like, what is the... Why
we were
is
both
this
confused
here? Yeah, and we kind of look at each other, and we're looking at the cord, and then it was amazing.
And then the look of shock on your face.
Yeah, I talk about hair standing on end. Mine right now on my arms, just like yours. Woo.
And I explained it then, and I'm going to say it again, because you just cannot really say this enough. It wasn't hooked on.
Right.
This was a coil spring, like from a bed, and it was like something, or somebody. I mean, something, whoever, something.
Right.
Literally, and the paracord was tight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it had to be
because of the weight
my
of the
pack's heavy.
Yeah,
I carry all the recording equipment.
Had literally threaded it on, like as if they took the very end of that spring, and spun it and turned it.
Yes, because it wasn't just the end of the spring.
No, it was like
I had to unwind it.
You had to unwind it.
And
then immediately I turn around and I look, and then I seen that trail in the ferns.
Yep.
And it was a straight beeline.
Mm-hmm.
And
we mentioned those other trails too. I don't want to get too far away from this spring, because I don't know how to drive this home, how insane this was to see this.
Yes. I believe you had said that. You had said, and it didn't catch it on the tape, but I think you had said, something was counting coup.
Yeah, something, that was my feeling. Like, something was bent on telling us, I can come into your camp whenever I want, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
When I said in the last episode, it's one of those moments where something, the other reaches out and taps you on the shoulder and like waves, I'm here. That was it. Because if you want to be a skeptic and say a person did that, a person was knocking on trees and then snuck into our campsite and twisted a spring on, or vice versa, whichever they did. If a person took that risk, if we wake up and you're in our campsite, we're going to assume the worst immediately.
Oh, absolutely, because I sleep with my knife by my head.
I'm going to assume you're there to make trouble. It's not going to be a fun thing, whatever happens. You're taking a risk, and you don't know that we don't have firearms. We didn't. But if it was another person, they wouldn't know that. They wouldn't know what we had in our packs or in our tents with us or whatever. You don't walk up on people's campsites in the middle of the night like that. You don't do it. You're going to get hurt if you do.
No, absolutely. And if you think you're not going to get hurt, you're a fool.
Yeah. So could that have been a person? Yeah, I guess maybe. Like, tell me who and why. I can't say that it wasn't 100%, but come on. What's the reason for all that?
Yeah, really. And they couldn't have approached us from the bottom of the hill, because, like I said, that was swamp.
Right.
You weren't getting through that.
Right.
There's no way. So if it was a person.
Right.
And
yeah, exactly.
And it spooked you, but really what scared me was the person that did that could look directly at me.
Exactly.
See me sleeping.
Exactly. They had while they were doing that, they could have had eyes right on you.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have woke up, I would have seen them standing there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the moon was bright enough up till like when we got woken up at 3:30.
Right.
And when you said this is what really drove it home for me. So, did something do that? See me sleeping there. Decide to walk over and shake the tarp.
Right. And that's what you saw, either walking away or walking by.
Yeah.
Whatever that shadow was. Yeah.
I mean, because I really specifically remember something shaking that tarp.
Wow.
I mean, and it wasn't just like a little shake.
Yeah, that's right, because you said when you woke up, you thought it was the wind or something. You thought we were going to get a storm.
But there was no wind.
There was no wind, and we didn't get a storm.
I mean, it was pretty violent. I mean, it had to, I was tired. They really, and you know, I was sleeping really well. They had to really shake that. Wow. Something had to really shake that tarp. And, you know, and it just, like I said, if it was a person, they were pretty darn brave. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that if we would have woken up, there would have been trouble. That would have been, like, because I'm going to assume the worst. If you're in my campsite, I'm going to assume the worst. You're either there to steal something or you're there to hurt me. So, two things happen that require hands. Those knocks require hands.
Yep.
And twisting that on require hands.
Yep. And like I said, it wasn't like the paracord was really lax.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't like it was right down along the ground. You know,
it was between 5 and 6 feet. Yeah.
And then when I walked the trail that went through the ferns, I tripped. Because the ferns were hiding. Because I walked directly on the trail because I wanted to match step for step. And I will say this, it wasn't like a quadruped. I matched step for step to see what they walked over, and I immediately tripped over in the
box spring.
That stupid box spring.
Yeah.
So to walk in the middle of the dark in the night through into our camp where you know there's a tent there. I mean, that spot was like 4 feet from your tent because your tent was right off 4 feet, not even 4 feet from that spot. And then, you know, my tarp was right there. And that's why I say in the video, you know, this is important to know how this stuff was positioned because it really drives home how close this was.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah,
If anybody has an answer, please tell us.
Yeah.
I would love to know, you know. If you were the guy that did this, please tell me, you know.
Yeah. If it's crazy mountain people, why?
Yeah, why would you do that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. But boy, the other. What can you do? And why a spring? I don't know. It was just a random.
Yeah. And then what else? You know, we found those tracks between. We mentioned it in that clip also. When we were taking stuff up to the truck, I'm like, oh my God, something had walked through the grass.
Yeah, I called you up because I said, hey, come look at this. Come look at this.
And they weren't. You know, it was tall grass that had been smashed.
Right. It's like a wake you can see through.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing through the ferns down by the campsite.
It wasn't deer tracks because I would have seen the deer tracks, and you know, and we're talking like an area. You know, it was like a smashed round, I mean oblong round area. You know, where something had tromped through there, and you could see literally like when you walked over because we also went over and investigated the gully. You could see where something had come up through the gully, went up onto the gravel road and went through
back into the grass. And we could literally follow a trail, a wake, essentially around our camp.
Yep. And it was like I had mentioned there. It was just out of the range. So if it was an animal, what animal would have enough sense to stay just out of the range of our lights?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then what spooks me also is it was between us and the vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at this on hindsight, it is pretty terrifying in a way, you know?
It was, wow. I mean...
wow, you're right.
I just don't know...
Hello, I'm here.
Exactly.
Tap you on the shoulder.
Exactly.
I mean, no doubt. I mean, this really drove home, and I have never experienced anything like this, ever.
I don't know what to say other than the other's a real thing. You know, I can't say it's Bigfoot, I can't tell you it's ghost, I don't know what it is, but... it's real, whatever it was. You know, I mean, this really happened. This
proved something is going on.
Yeah.
To me, you know.
So we packed up everything, and then we went down to check the offering spot.
Yep, we went down over the hill.
Now, do you think I should leave that feather? Or we can check it some other time.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Keep the rock on top of it to keep it from
Yeah.
falling away.
All right, so we set up a little cairn, kind of, I don't know, gifting area or whatever you might call it. This isn't a proper cairn. It's not a stack of rocks, but a little area, I don't know, 200 yards down the hill from our camp.
Yeah.
And we set several things there, including an owl feather from that Tobe sent me from one of the Owl Moon sites. I'm not sure which one. A piece of slag from Cador's furnace, which is very important, and Mark put some food items out, and he put an apple and some cinnamon and cloves and fennel, I believe. The apple's gone, which could be any critter.
Yes.
There's a little paw print in the cinnamon.
Yeah, there's actually a paw print in the cinnamon.
So,
it looks like a fox.
So, something took the... That's cute, though. That's a cute little paw print in the cinnamon. We should probably get a picture of that.
I will.
And the feather's still here, but the slag's gone.
Yeah. The slag glass is completely gone.
It's gone. This piece of black slag from Cador's furnace. It's gone.
And it's literally like a glass. It almost looks like a piece of obsidian.
And this is, like, it's hard to tell where I was hearing those wood knocks from, but, like, this, it seemed they came from this direction, from down the hill from where we were.
Well, this piece of wood was this big hunk.
Yeah.
Wasn't here.
Yeah, that's that. There's a big dead piece of limb that's laying on the rocks, too. But, I mean, it was... What I heard was not limbs falling. It was not a woodpecker. There's no way it was a woodpecker. It's 3:30 in the morning. It was something with hands swinging something and hitting something else. Bang, 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 5 times. So, there's only a couple things that could be, I guess.
This wasn't here yesterday. I just moved it to see if it was. It's like right above the swamp.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you want to try the ghost box here for a minute?
Yeah, if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we might as well at this point. I mean, obviously we got visited by a fox, for sure. But
yeah, but foxes
is not going to take a piece of slag glass
or bang on trees.
Yeah.
So I did try the ghost box there, and we're so far out in the middle of nowhere there that there's no signal. You need radio signal to get voices. It was just nothing but static.
Honestly, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah. So it was, not much came of that. So the slag was gone.
Yeah, and I did dig around, in all the rocks. I did probe around and just to make sure that and it was gone. I mean, it was completely gone. Completely gone.
Yeah. Now the apple, do foxes eat apples?
Yeah, they'll eat some like grapes, and I think the fox came in and took the apple.
That seems logical because the print was right there.
Yeah,
like I said, it was very cute.
I did take a picture of it, and I just looked, and I must have got rid of the picture.
I might have it. If I have it, I'll put it up.
Yeah, it is kind of cool because it was like a perfect little round fox print.
That's down the hill from the campsite. So as we're walking back up, we found something else. Yeah, it's almost kind of woven in. So we found a little tree structure. Might have been here yesterday.
It wasn't here yesterday.
I didn't notice it. That's the thing. We walked right by here.
Because I came up from there, from where I got the fat wood. This was not here.
Okay, so there's a little...
To our knowledge, it was not here.
Right. It's 3 different... Or is it 4 different trees, basically?
Well, the upright
or
tree,
limbs.
you have a maple. A living maple.
Living maple with a dead pine leaned onto it. A old piece of hardwood something.
Yeah, that looks almost like hickory.
Kind of, not quite woven into it, but kind of, it looks intentionally placed. And then most interesting, there's another piece of hardwood that's just balanced in it, in the crotch of the maple tree.
Yeah, and this hardwood isn't here.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look like
There's no dead.
It fell from above. So, it's balanced. It's balanced in there. It's just, yeah. It's not touching the ground. It's just perfectly balanced in the crotch of the tree.
I could see the pine falling and leaning because that could snap, but this is different. I mean, that's in there. I'm not talking about the bounce one. I'm talking about the other one leaned up against it. I mean, look how solid that is.
Yeah, for just being leaned into it. That's the thing that I've found with the ones that are really interesting to me are put together in interesting ways. They either have something balancing or something woven in.
And this is not anybody's campsite. This is not a bushcraft campsite.
No. Why would you do that anyway? Yeah. Like, what's the and
we're like,
there's no practical use for this.
No, there isn't. and we're up
You like
directly from where
speaking of bush. So we were speaking before about, like, you were saying, like, I think some of these tree structures are maybe bushcraft things that, and
Yes.
I would agree, but taking that further, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because you do bushcraft.
Correct.
You're not going to go out and do something for decoration. Everything you're doing is
It's
for
practicality.
practical
Correct.
use.
Correct.
So you're not going to, like, this has no practical use. You're not going to go out in the woods and just make something like this just to make it.
No.
Yeah, it's got no practical use.
No.
So, yes, and I've seen some, and you've pointed out to me, like, oh, this looks like a bushcraft shelter, and I agree, and I see that.
And it was like either, something that you would throw a tarp up,
Right,
and it was like basically a skeleton to throw the
right.
tarp on
In
top.
fact, I know one. I'll have to show you.
Well, the
It's-
one
it's-
we actually found, like a fire pit. Remember?
Yeah. But I'll have to show you another one. It's just a local. It's in a county park, and I've seen people post pictures of it online as a Bigfoot structure, and it's very. I mean, even I went, nah, that's a shelter of some sort, and.
But this isn't.
No.
Yeah,
This,
I mean,
this
this is just-
this has no, to my knowledge, there's no practical purpose.
Yeah, no, this wouldn't be a lean-to. This wouldn't be like a skeleton, like a skeleton just to throw a tarp over or
Right,
anything
no,
like that.
this
It
is-
would be, no signs of axes or saws.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, very interesting. This is all on the hillside, down from the camp where the slag was taken.
Yep.
And we're just making our way back up now, and I'm getting bitten.
Over there behind the little trees.
Yeah.
That's where that was. So it was close. That's pretty
Yeah.
damn close.
So people have these theories about these, so-called tree structures,
Correct.
and they'll tell you they're warning signs, or they're marking out territory, or do not. Oh man, I just ate some.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Talking while walking, ate spider web. So, and they'll tell you, like, some of these guys will tell you exactly what they are. No, this means this. This means stay out. This means that. How they know that, I don't know. But, I've been working on this theory that I think we're thinking too simply, and I think they're done with purpose, but the purpose might not be so simple as marking out hunting grounds or anything like that. I'm wondering if they're not something more like religious symbols, idols, altars, maybe sigils they're making in the woods, 3-dimensional sigils. Again, if we're talking about Bigfoot and not, if we're talking about a forest spirit, then all bets are off. Like, why not?
Absolutely.
Why not with that?
You're talking something. If the forest spirit, you're talking something that you ain't even going to comprehend its thought processes.
But if we're talking Bigfoot, my point is, if it's a wild man, and that seems to be the new line of thinking. They keep saying it's a human, it's some sort of cousin of ours or something. The people who say it's a natural animal. Well, if it's a wild man, why wouldn't it have religion? Why wouldn't it have spirituality? Why wouldn't it have, in a sense, kind of like a shaman maybe, or some sort of magical practice? And maybe they mean something. In a sense, in their belief system, or maybe it's magic, maybe that's a sigil. It's a magic spell. Who knows? I think we're really limiting ourselves to think, oh, it's a trail marker. That's what I'm saying is complete speculation. But
Well, yeah, no.
so is theirs. That's my point.
Right.
That, and you don't know, and I just think we should open up our view
From what
as
you've
to what
said,
that could be.
And what I've said and what I've heard. These things are smart.
Yeah.
They're not just animals marking territory.
Last night, whatever it was, was about teaching us that it can get as close to us as it wants.
Whenever
It can
wants
do
to.
what it wants, and we got no say in it. We have no say.
Yeah, I'm
It was-
here. You guys asked. I'm here.
It was demonstrating 100% that it's the boss. It's in charge. it's in charge, and it can do what it wants around us, which is that spring just blows my mind.
And I was like less than 5 feet from your tent.
And again, something with hands.
And right behind me, whatever it was looking at me.
Right. So, like we were saying, if it was a person, they were top grade ninja warrior to sneak in there like that.
I mean, if you're less than 5 feet, I would have heard that.
Yeah, right. Well, they came across Rusty Springs. You know what I mean? You'd think they would have tripped on that.
Yeah,
or
I did.
Or anything. They had to take one of the springs and loop it into my paracord.
Yeah, they like spun it in.
Yeah.
So it's you're talking like kind of
it's
rotated.
Two things happened that said
coil spring.
Something with hands. The spring, something with hands, and those knocks. I'm sorry, they were straight up knocks, 100%. Something banging on something. Scared the heck out of me.
And that one part of that tree structure was wedged in there pretty tight. I mean, it was at least a half inch into the ground.
Yeah,
it was driven in.
Pushed in or driven.
Maybe the wood knocks you heard was something driving in it. I mean, I don't.
Maybe.
I'm just stretching.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, again, it's speculation, and then that part, like I said, it's balanced in, and it didn't fall that way. It didn't fall into.
There were trees around there that was like that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
if it would have been falls, it would have been pine trees.
Right
into that maple. There are a lot of spider webs here.
Yeah. Nice thick webs too.
Yeah, they're really thick.
Yeah. All right, let's head
out to the next spot.
Yep. So that was interesting. How confident are you that wasn't there when we went down the first
I
day?
am very confident, because if you remember...
Well, that's the way you walked up. Because we walked down, and Mark and I walked down on one side, and you walked down on the other.
Yeah,
and that's the side you walked down on, so you would know better than me.
Yeah, that was I actually walked up that side.
Okay.
Because I had found that one giant down tree.
Mm-hmm.
Because being what I do, I'm always constantly looking in the woods for resources.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to that one down tree, and I harvested some fat wood.
Yep.
Which is useful in making fires. And I walked back up that way, and I had remembered that one pine tree, because like I said, I'm always looking for something to use in the woods. It's just the nature of bushcraft. And I saw that one dead pine tree, and I'm like thinking, I could probably maybe find some fat wood there. And it was like an old, like just a really big, hoary, old, half-dead pine tree. And that tree structure was not there. I can almost guarantee you it was not. And one thing that blew me away, and I actually didn't say it on that clip, but remember when I said the one piece that's solid, that that's not the same wood. I said that's hickory, because if it would have been like wood that fell and collapsed, you would have seen a hickory tree near there.
Right.
Because remember I said there was no hardwoods here.
Yeah.
There was like pieces of hardwood in that structure that weren't. There's no way it could have fallen out of a hardwood tree because it was all pines.
Yeah, I mean, and having something fall and balance perfectly. In
and if you remember, the one piece, I said was kind of wedged into the ground, was actually like the ground was disturbed, like it had been jammed into the ground.
And you even said, because there was a little spot where you could have used something to kind of drive it, like a little knot on the side of it. You're like, I wonder if that's what you were hearing, like somebody drive this into the ground. I don't know that it was, but
at this point, we were just kind of really trying to figure out what was going on
and try to reconstruct the night around us. Yeah. So then we go back to camp. So the other thing that we found, which we didn't talk about, was that stick that was underneath your gators.
Yeah, I had sat the gators there
last night. And we know there was a longish stick there.
Yeah, a twig.
Yeah. So we didn't put it there. And you were cleaning up, and you looked at me and said, "Did you put this here?" And this is after we found the spring. And no, I did not put that there.
And what was weird, I didn't notice it this morning when I was making tea and stuff. You think I would have noticed that thing sitting there?
Yeah. I mean,
under the gators, under two gators.
Under, you're right. So it didn't fall on top of it.
No.
Yeah.
And it was, a good
18 inches, something like that. Yeah.
It came off this pile there over to there, and it once again it was not the same kind of tree.
No, it didn't.
Because I got it from that dead or that dead sprag over there.
Right. Weird night in Pandemonium. It was Pandemonium in Pandemonium.
It lived up to its name.
It really did. Yeah, I always forget when I'm telling everything that went down because it's just not as dramatic as the spring.
No,
and then I was listening back to the audio, and I had completely forgotten about it. And I'm editing the audio. I'm like, oh yeah, there was that stick.
Yeah. So we had come back from seeing the tree structure.
Let me tell you something about Chad. Chad is pretty meticulous, and he's pretty neat as far as the campsite. He's not going to have branches sitting around. It's not in his character to do. And if I would have left it around, he would have cleaned up behind me. It's just the way Chad is.
Yes.
So this was unusual, to say the least.
Yes.
That this would have been on top of the picnic table.
So I wear gaiters a lot in the woods because I just, it helps keep my boots, keep stuff off, boots. Yeah. And I had sat my gaiters on the picnic table when I went to bed. And actually, no, I had sat them up when I just put them there as we were taking camp down because they weren't on the picnic table because we were making tea that night. They would have been there. And we had walked down to check out the tree structure, and I came back, and there was a twig about 18 inches long under my gaiters on top of the picnic table, and the twig had come from the pile of tinder because I separate my firewood by tinder in different sizes. The twig had come from the pile of tinder and was underneath the gaiters.
Yeah.
And it
was sticking out a little bit, so you could actually see it a little bit.
Yeah, it was. You noticed it. I noticed it right away. I'm like, what the heck? Where did this come from?
It wasn't hidden under it. It was,
It was like a big. It was a bushy pile of tinder, and I'm like, where did this come from? Because I didn't. I would have taken that and put it with the pile of tinder because at this point we're cleaning up the campsite.
Yeah.
I don't let any trash lay around. I mean, that we had the trash all hot, trash and the food all hanging up, and. It was just one more thing. Yeah. At this point, you can probably even hear it in my voice. I am just not surprised after this point. It was just, yeah.
We finally get out of the campsite.
Pack the car up.
We got to get up to the cemetery. We got to retrieve the recorder, but we wanted to check out that area anyway. Remember last episode I said, remember the cedar ball and remember the slag. And this is where we get into the cedar ball. So here's part of the reason why I said remember the cedar ball. So this is, I guess, west of the cemetery a little bit.
Yeah. The back entrance, which I assume goes to the school.
Back to the Pioneer Cemetery because we left a recorder there last night, and felt like we were sort of told to leave. In a sense, but we're back to where the Chad's disappearing cairn was.
That cairn is still there.
Yes, the one we built where the one disappeared or whatever happened.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to curse. That was strange.
It's there, the one we put up there, and then I put another one by a tree that was nearby. It looked like there was a cairn there that fell over, and I sort of set it back up and added one to it, and that is still there as well. But we both agreed we didn't feel like coming back here last night.
No,
it just something about it.
It was not a good vibe last night.
Yeah, we just didn't want to come this direction.
You know what? It really would have been freaky if we would have got up here. And now I know this isn't going to happen, but if like the slag glass was up here.
Yeah, that would be. I tell you what, that's the kind of stuff that Tobe has happen.
Yeah.
He'll have stuff like disappear from one site and then like appear in another and stuff. It's like the stuff he gets is wackadoodle.
Definitely, I'm not getting the same feeling we had yesterday. It's much calm.
Yeah,
much calmer.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost akin to the feeling we first had when we came up to the cemetery last night.
Yes.
It was very, very calm, and then then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Then we were We were told in no uncertain terms.
We were driven out.
Yeah.
Call it like it is.
Time to leave, guys.
It was like we both felt it. It was like the woods came alive. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how to describe it. And, there was no wind, and just like things falling. And
Yeah, like I said, there might have been stuff falling, but it shows up.
you said something was thrown.
Maybe it wasn't thrown, maybe it fell, but if it fell, it shows a very interesting time to fall.
Wow. Just a crazy place.
Yes, Pandemonium. I don't know. And then we get into that, like, does naming a place something like that draw things in, just... Because usually these places, these Devil's Creeks and Devil's Pass and all these devil named places and hell named places, Hell's Peak and all that. Usually there's a reason for it.
I just found it was interesting that the three different deals, did 3 different land warrants. And I'm assuming they're the same family. We don't know for sure. We haven't done the research.
it would be insane if they weren't at least related to each other.
And
they all
actually used the same name for 3 different places. So I'm curious, where was the one in York?
Yeah, I think that's a big quest for us.
Wouldn't
now.
that be curious if it's somewhere that we know?
It'd be even more curious if it's someplace that we've been digging at already.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But no, there's just, this is a lovely little cemetery. Really nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well maintained. I think it's just a neat place.
And I recommend people coming up here.
Yeah.
I mean, if not to see the cemetery and what remains of the town. Now you're not going to see like buildings.
No, except for the dynamite shack. But that wasn't part. That wasn't part of the town. That was part of the CCC.
But
thing.
It's worth the drive.
Yeah.
It really is, and it's a beautiful area. Tuscarora State Forest. I mean, it's.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to check that cedar ball.
Oh, I forgot about that. I'm glad I said something. I see it.
Yeah, but is it in the same place? It is not in this. I don't believe it's in the same place.
Looks like it moved to the right just a little bit.
It totally moved. I had it down in here.
You can see it moved.
I had it down because I wanted to lodge it in and kind of lock it in.
So that was so it was like a little nook in the top of the stone, and it literally went up like a little slow grade.
Yeah.
And it's wet where it had sat.
So this is the cedar ball again. This is from Tobe. He's from one of the Al Moon sites, and it has definitely 100% been moved. I'm going to take a second picture of it here. And it was not moved last night when we were here.
It was not, because when we checked the cemetery last night,
it was in the same place. So this is between what, midnight and 9 a.m. or something?
Something like that.
This was moved?
It definitely moved uphill. I mean, it went up grade.
Yeah. All right. So I was going to take this one if it hadn't nothing been done, but I think I might leave it now. What do you think?
I would leave it. Honestly.
Uh-huh.
You took a picture of it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't want to set the car.
That is 100% moved. Now,
yeah, it had to have been. And like I said, the rock is angled.
I wanted to put it down in there because I wanted it to kind of nest. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to roll away.
So what I would do is I'd take a picture from this angle so you can see that it actually moved up a grade.
Okay. I think I will.
That's nuts.
I think I will. Now, squirrel, maybe. Yeah. Interesting squirrel to push it around and stop there, you know.
Well, you can see the wet spot where it had gathered the dampness out of the stone.
Yeah, where it was sitting. Yep.
Was there marks on this before?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Because where the wet spot is, there's like a... Yeah, well, like I said, obviously that was sitting...
Yeah, I had it wedged in there because I didn't want it to roll, you know?
I mean, look. It rolls back every time.
Yeah. So, if it...
It was here.
Right, and...
Wasn't there.
So, you think if it, if it's a squirrel, it's not going to be much to push it up. You know what I mean?
No, no. I don't think that was a squirrel, dude.
Yeah.
And you can see the wetness from when it moved.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have rolled that way. And we just did that and see how wet that is.
Yeah, yeah.
So it must have been not too long ago.
I wish I would have checked it on the way in this morning. I mean, even now.
Yeah.
But
We'll leave it there.
Yeah. We'll come back and see it again. There's no saying that a person doesn't come and take that.
Yes. I mean, this place gets visited a lot.
Yeah. The cedar ball had been moved. It had been moved uphill, as we just said. It was right on the edge of the rock. If a squirrel did that...
He's a very talented squirrel.
He decided to stop it at just the right time and not knock that cedar ball all the way off.
Yeah, it had come up because, as we mentioned in the first part of this series, you had sat that cedar ball in a little pocket.
Yeah, I didn't want it to roll. I specifically said, I need to find a rock where I can sit this in. So it had been moved. It had definitely been moved, 100%.
It was perfectly balanced, too.
Yeah.
I mean, because remember, I said, how could they do it? Because, I picked it up and I said, tried to balance it myself, and it just kept rolling back down into that little pocket.
Yeah. Now, remember, I didn't tell Tobe that I took anything up there. Because, like I said, he had sent the stuff with the intention for me to leave him kind of nearby where I could check him frequently. But, like I said, we were going up there anyway. So I thought, I'll take a couple things. Take a couple of the things from the Al Moon sites and just see what happens. We get home then. We clean up our stuff and head back. And when I get home, I got a message from Tobe. He sends me an email.
As soon as you got home?
Facebook message. Within a few hours.
Okay.
Within a few hours.
The same day.
I probably didn't. It might have been there already. I probably didn't check my messages, until I got settled or whatever.
Yeah.
And the message is just said, "Do you still have that cedar ball?" That's all he said. And I'm thinking, does he want it back? You know what I mean? Is he asking for it back?
Yeah, because we had left it back up there.
Yeah, we left it all the way up there. And I'm thinking kind of uh-oh. And I did not tell him I was taking it. Like I said, he kind of meant for me to leave that in Hex Hollow. So I'm like, what's going on? Why is he asking me for this? So, I sent him a message, and it takes him a while to get back to me. And he finally says, because the cedar ball appeared outside of my house today. We last saw it about 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
They found a cedar ball in the afternoon. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he said about 4 p.m. West Coast time. That's when they found it outside of their house, outside of Tobe's house. So, there are things called apports that happen in paranormal situations where things disappear and reappear elsewhere. And I'm just thinking, what's going on with this now? You know what I mean? We just saw that cedar ball. We just had it moved. I get home, message from Tobe, do you have that cedar ball?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa. So I think it's at that point we knew we got to go back.
Yes.
We have to go back.
We were like, we got to go back.
And then the slag came up again. Was that the same day or was that the next day or something for you?
I think it was the next day. It was the next day.
It was the next day.
It was the day after.
So this is the... it's not the same piece of slag.
Not the same piece of slag.
But it's Cador's furnace slag.
It's Cador's furnace
tell
slag.
The story.
So, the next day, I get home. I'm cleaning up. I was cleaning out the car because I left some of the stuff in, the day, afterwards. And I was so tired Sunday, I just wanted to go home and go to bed. So, Monday evening, I'm cleaning up, taking stuff out of the car. And my wife was working around in her gardens. And my wife loves flowers. She loves, her butterflies in the gardens. And she's working in the flower bed. And she said, "Oh, I found this piece of rock. This rock." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, it's slag from a furnace. And I think I had just talked to you about, you had just told me about Tobe calling you. Because I think you called me that on Sunday and told me about that.
Oh, yeah. I think I told
you're
you
like,
right
we
away.
need to go back up. And then I'm like, oh my God. Did this piece of slag come back from Pandemonium? So she tells me this, we're coming back from the grocery store. And she's like, oh yeah, I found this black slag rock. I think it's yours. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm driving, trying to get home, quickly without killing us because I want to know what's going on. And we get home and she's like, here it is. And she goes and she found it where she had put it. And it was another piece of slag glass from Cador's. But it wasn't the same piece from Pandemonium, though. See, I had recently just gotten rid of my other vehicle because I had a Chevy Blazer that was just junk. And I had left a piece of slag glass from when me and my son went to Cador's Furnace. I had left it in the bottom of the Blazer, in the passenger seat on the floor. And it turned up in her garden. In the garden of all places. So this was a bigger piece. It was bigger. It wasn't the little piece that disappeared.
Right.
So,
but still,
that's crazy.
Yeah, slag, and right after all this.
It's
right after all this that happens in Pandemonium, and this stuff with Tobe, and we're like, what's going on? Are just things just flying through time and space?
Yeah,
now? What is going on?
It was just like there was a lot of reverberations.
Yeah.
From this whole experience.
Yeah. And then we met a witness named Ken in Michaud, and he had some Bigfoot sightings and stuff, and you'll hear that on a future episode. While we were there, he was telling us his stories, and we were pretty fresh from Pandemonium. I think this was, a week or two later?
I think I didn't even know, maybe a week later.
And a half later, something like that.
We're gluttons for punishment, people.
And we're telling Ken, what happened down there. And he says, oh yeah, Pandemonium's weird. And he tells us this story about Pandemonium.
Now, my wife and I, we went camping up in there one time. We, at the time, had a St. Bernard boxer mix. And, I mean, let me tell you, this dog, anyone that met this dog would tell you she was the sweetest dog in the world. You could take a little baby bunny, and we've done this. We have a picture of her. You can take a little baby bunny and put it right up to her face, and she'd just lick it and all that. But one night we were camping in there, and so when you're coming in on Laurel Run Road, like if you come in off of 233 and go up Laurel Run Road, right before the cemetery there, that little side road that cuts down to the left.
That's Meadow Road, yes.
Yep, we went right down in there. And found a little primitive campsite right down in there.
Actually,
we saw it.
Yeah, we know where that campsite is.
Right along the creek.
Yep, that's right where we were, right in that area. And probably about 2 o'clock in the morning or so, I heard footsteps coming in out of the woods towards the tent. And all of a sudden, this dog, her hackles went up. She started growling, got, half aggressive, started crawling up to the edge of the tent. Well, I heard it walk right up to the tent and start walking around the back side of the tent behind me. I had my flashlight right there. As soon as it came around to the front of the tent, I unzipped it real quick, shine the flashlight out. I kid you not, there was no one there.
I believe it.
Just got out, looked around. I was like, okay, that's...
And the old steam tannery is right there.
Yeah.
Where they work.
And I was like, that's pretty weird. Got back in, zipped it back up. The second I zipped it back up, the footsteps picked up right where they left off and walked back into the woods.
Oh, that's weird.
Away from the tent. Yeah, Pandemonium is wild.
Yeah,
I mean, the cemetery itself, we were up in there taking pictures that night, and, like I said, doing tours in Gettysburg, I saw a lot of orbs, but it's one thing when you're in there taking pictures and you hear people walking around you, off in the woods and stuff like that, and it's not deer.
No.
Yeah.
Trust me, we knew this wasn't deer.
Yeah. So he was staying right near the steam tannery.
Yes. I think I even remarked, you might not have been on that clearing, but when we were up there, I said, look, there's somebody's campsite.
Yeah, we said
right beside Laurel Run, beside the creek.
There's a campsite right there. Maybe I think you might even said maybe we want to stay there one time or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, he even said, as I was talking to him, I said, yeah, I remember seeing that spot. And he said, oh yeah, it's a really nice spot, the water there.
Yeah.
So
he was right there, and then has an experience. So I thought that was really neat. We didn't know we were going to get a Pandemonium story from Ken. We were there to talk about his Michaud experience.
Yeah.
And again, you'll hear that on an upcoming episode. We have some questions about what's going on in Michaud. One of them being, is it related at all to what we've experienced in Pandemonium? Because Michaud's been pretty off the hook.
And it's intensifying.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, it's like it's building to something.
But that's another show. That's down the road.
Yeah, it is down the road.
But the Friday following Pandemonium, we decided to go back.
Yeah, I called you up and I said, we're going back. I said, we're just going to run up after I get off work. And
we had to check for that cedar ball.
Yeah.
We had to see for that cedar ball. And we wanted to check some other stuff. And we just wanted to go back. And we did experience more weirdness. We were there.
Yeah.
If you want to hear about that one, though, you got to come for Pandemonium Part 3. And that's going to be a patron episode. To hear that, you got to be a patron. And you can become a patron of Strange Familiars at patreon.com. Patreon.com/strangefamiliars. And you can get all our extra episodes, including Pandemonium Part 3. As I mentioned there, Pandemonium Part 3 will be available to patrons next week. If you want to hear every episode of Strange Familiars and support us, help us continue to make the program, you can become a patron at Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. $3 a month gets you extra shows. In September, we did 2 full extra shows for our patrons. We're hoping to do 2 in October as well, but we guarantee 1 full extra show. So in October, our patrons will get at least the full episode of Pandemonium Part 3, where we tell the rest of the story that we started in Parts 1 and 2. There are different levels of support at Patreon. You can check them all out at patreon.com/strangefamiliars. Another way you can help is to like and subscribe to us wherever you're listening, whether it's iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever. And give us those nice 5-star reviews. Those really help get the podcast in front of other potential listeners. If you don't like the idea of a recurring subscription payment like Patreon, you can help with a one-time PayPal donation. In the show notes at strangefamiliars.com, you will see a paypal.me link. And of course, that's a huge help as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. Patrons, be talking to you next week with Pandemonium Part 3. Everybody else, we will be back soon with another episode of Strange Familiars. And don't forget, you can always find us at strangefamiliars.com.
Conspiranormal Podcast proudly presents the Strange Realities Conference. Strange Realities. Come join us for one day of presentations on the paranormal with live music at night featuring Tim Banal,
The Rise and Fall of the Flat Earth Theory,
Joshua Cutchin,
Alien Hybrid Lore,
Joe Damari,
Pushing the Limits of Reality,
Guy Malone,
Roswell 1947, What Really Happened,
Timothy Renner,
Pennsylvania Wildman,
and added to the lineup, Mark Anthony Wyatt,
Cornish Legends and UFO Sightings,
Zach Hunt.
presentation of his book Unraptured,
Followed by a live recording of the Conspiranormal Podcast. More speakers and music acts to be announced. October 19, 2019, SIR Nashville.
Tickets and info at www.strangerealitiesconference.com. $40 at the door, $30 pre-sale.
Strange Brow Radio presents Podcastle Live at Reese Castle in Fort Townsend, Washington, October 25th from 7 to 11. This free event will host legendary Bigfoot researcher Ron Moorhead, as well as some ghost stories and info on the Brassy Skulls, consultant with LAPD psychic
Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts, music, books, art, podcasts, and more. darkhollerarts.com. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. Go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com for more. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/strangefamiliars, where you can join the Strange Familiars gathering group as well. And we are on Instagram @strangefamiliars. Don't forget to subscribe to Chad's YouTube channel as well, Ruck Rabbit Outdoors.
Hello, Timothy. This is Sean calling. I wanted to leave you a little story about after my father died. My brother and I were at his best friend's house, my father's best friend's house, which was a man and a wife. And we were getting ready for dinner, and the wife said, "You know, your father used to call right about this time." And right on cue, the phone rang. And I thought, well, that's pretty weird timing. And she went to get the phone, and hello, hello, hello. Nobody was there. And she hung up the phone, and, well, I had a laugh, just sort of thinking, wow, it's Dad calling. Nobody else seemed to really think that, but that was a little snippet, a little story I wanted to tell you. And anyway, I enjoy the podcast, and thank you very much. Bye.
Of
hung upon the tree. It waits for me. It waits for me. And who is hanged upon the tree? He waits for me. He waits